Here it is then, my season preview for Everton in 26-27. Season number 2 under the Friedkin regime. So you can say season number 2 in the kind of transitional season from last year, which was the first season at Hill Dickinson Stadium. This campaign will be the follow-up season to that, season 2 of the 2-year plan, which Angus Kinnair called it. I'm hesitant to call it a big season, because that's a bit of a cliche. But I think it's an exciting season. I'm actually looking forward to this season more than many seasons in the past. I actually can't wait for the Crystal Palace game. And in this video, I'm going to go through it in a structured way, look at some elements of this Everton side. I look at the new roster, talk about my expectations for this season. I will talk about key factors for this season to be a success, what needs to improve compared to last season, and then I will do some predictions for Everton, but also the Premier League in general. So please feel free to share your predictions in the comments. So let us look at this new Everton roster. What does our roster look like for 26-27? And maybe let's start with the changes. So on the incoming side, Everton brought in Tyreek George, Merlin Röhl, Hayden Hackney, Christian Norgard, and Brennan Johnson so far. Plus, some academy players have featured in the senior team during preseason. The most noticeable name there being Braden Graham. Yeah. And then let's look at the outgoings, so which players left Everton for good. So the most noticeable names there are Idrissa Gana Gueye, Dwight McNeil, and the biggest name of them all, Seamus Coleman, although he had a very, very minor role last season. I think he played only 5 minutes. We also saw the exit of some youngsters, and another big one is the loan of Jack Grealish. So Jack Grealish, as it stands, not part of this Everton squad, subject to change. So overall, on paper, you could argue this squad has only had marginal changes because George and Röhl have already been with the team last year. But I would say even on paper, this squad is marginally better than the squad before, because effectively we replaced Dwight McNeil with Brennan Johnson, and we replaced Idrissa Gana Gueye with Christian Norgard. To me, on paper, both of these substitutions or switches, both of these switches are a slight upgrade. And then you could say, what about Grealish? Isn't Grealish a big miss? Well, we brought in Tyreek George more or less as the Grealish replacement. And yes, as of right now, it would be a stretch to say Tyreek George is an upgrade on Grealish. No. As of today, Grealish, we know what you're going to get. He's a proven Premier League player who has also had a pretty good spell with Everton. In my honest opinion, I don't think he was as impressive as some fans make him out to be, but he definitely featured. He was a main reason why Everton were quite successful in the first half of the season and why the second half of the season didn't go as well. And Tyreek George is still a young player. We have only seen glimpses of him in terms of actually competitive Premier League football. But obviously, that's only the reality on paper. First of all, Grealish is 1 year older once again. He comes back after another major injury. Grealish, I think, in terms of the future of Everton, taking finances, a long-term strategy into consideration, replacing Jack Grealish with Tyreek George is the smart move. We brought in Tyreek for, I think, is a good fee, only around 20, a little bit north of £20 million. And he's a very exciting prospect, had a good preseason. So I think to have George instead of Grealish there, I feel pretty good about that. And who knows? Maybe the loan market is still open. I think it's highly likely that Jack Grealish will leave Manchester City. So he might return to Everton. But I can live in a world where Everton goes into the season without Jack Grealish. And I am confident in Tyreek George. And if I say confident in Tyreek George, what I mean is I don't think this team relies on Tyreek George in the same way the team relied on Grealish. Grealish was basically a personified concept for Everton to attack. Just give Grealish the ball on the left and he will somehow create something. I think with Tyreek George, he doesn't replace Grealish in that regard. He's not the one man maverick option for Everton to go forward. Instead, we replace Grealish not with only Tyreek George, but we replace Grealish with a more competitive roster on the wings as a whole. I think as it stands, we have Ilman and Jai as the lock for the wing position, either on the left or on the right. And then we have three promising, talented players with different skills, different profiles to compete for the second wing option. Even if Tyreek George does not hit the ground running, then we have two other players that can play on the wing. And I think we can see a very, I like that. We have competition on the wings with young, exciting players who have the best of their career still in front of them. I prefer that scenario. If there's a loan option for Grealish, you could think about it, but I personally, if finances are tight, then I don't think that's a smart move. Okay, so I think overall the squad is slightly better on paper. In reality, I think this same squad is much stronger than it was last season. And that is mainly due to the preseason we had. Because this preseason meant a lot more to Everton than preseasons in the past. It was not just a glorified fitness session, but we used that preseason to our advantage by integrating young players, giving them key responsibility there, and giving them a good run of games. In this preseason, George, Dibbling, Asnu, Rühl, they played more minutes than they played the whole last Premier League season. And now we have these players that were already in the squad last season. We have now seen them with a run of games. And all of a sudden, in my opinion, this same squad looks a lot deeper. Look at both. We have now almost two complete starting 11s of players where I feel pretty confident about at least 18, 19 players there. If these any of these players are in the starting formation, I will not be automatically pessimistic about the outcome of the game. And that would have been different last season. Because let's say we threw in Dibbling for the odd game, yes, I would have been interested to see how he performs, but I wouldn't have thought that he will immediately have a major impact on our game. Whereas if Dibbling starts against Palace now, I'm feeling quite confident that he can deliver a good performance. Same for Merlin Röhl, same for Tyreek George, same for Harrison Armstrong, same for Hayden Hackney now, same for Adam Masnu. All of a sudden, we have players that all of them, if they start, I will feel that we can get something from that game. So the only players in the current roster where I would feel that if they play under certain circumstances, there could be a immediate drop off in what I expect Everton will be able to achieve, and these players are uh, um, Nathan Patterson and Michael Keane. And even Michael Keane, you can put an asterisk. I will feel pessimistic if Michael Keane plays together with James Tarkowski, because that will mean either these two need so much protection from midfield, so they would need a Norgard Ghana partnership to protect them, and that will overall mean the team will sit much deeper, will be a very negative safety first team. Or if you rely on those two to play a bit of a higher line and be exposed against pacey attacking teams, I think that could be trouble. So Keane and Patterson are the ones that I wish Everton would have a slight upgrade on in an ideal scenario, but we know it's not going to happen with Keane for sure. And I haven't seen of any. There were a couple rumors around Patterson right early in the window. Frankfurt were supposed to be interested in him, but Patterson is a bit of a tragedy. He's been the backup right back for I don't know how many seasons now, and we never felt like he can actually ever do a proper job. He was never given a real chance, so why is he still in the team? But the rest, literally everyone else in these two in this squad, I trust to be able to have a positive impact and to be a difference maker for Everton. That I think is a major difference to last season. It's the same. It's a pretty similar squad on paper, but in reality, the depth of this squad it has much more depth, and the squad looks because of that, it looks much stronger. We have much more options. And now I'm going to talk about the implications of that in my keys to success section. So that is the roster section. Now let's talk about expectations. What can we expect from this Everton team 26-27? And let's look at how Everton finished in the last 10, 12 years in the Premier League. So we have lots of mid-table finishes in there, a couple breakout seasons with 7th and 8th finishes, and then also some very concerning finishes, 16th, 17th, 15th, and now we have back-to-back seasons in 13th. So what can we expect in 26-27? I think we can definitely expect Everton to finish better than the last two seasons. I fully expect Everton to finish higher than 13th. And in order to formulate my expectations, I think it doesn't only make sense to look at Everton in isolation, but also look at the competition. Here's the list of Premier League teams in this season. And I had a look through these teams, their rosters, the moves they made in summer, where they finished last season, the coaching. And I might be wrong, of course, but I think this Premier League is the Premier League has not improved dramatically over last season. I think it's a Premier League where if your team finds a bit of form, you have a chance to do something like you had last season, right? The race for Europe was wide open last season, and even Everton were participating in that. Had a disappointing finish to the season, but they were in the mix for the European spots. And I expect the next season to be the same. I expect Everton to have a chance to compete for Europe for sure. So let me talk through two different versions of myself. There is definitely scarred from the last 10, 15 years. There is that worried fan inside of me, and that fan still exists, that thinks if the worst case scenario happens, even when I say the Premier League hasn't improved dramatically, that thinks if things go bad, Everton could also be dragged, in the worst scenario, be dragged into another season where they're much closer to the relegation zone than to Europe. I think even if things go bad, they will not be dragged into a full on relegation battle like Spurs found themselves in last season. But it could be a season where Everton is more or less hanging around in 14th, 15th. But I think this will only happen if Everton suffers some key injuries and if we fall into the same trap we fell last season, which is stop rotating and just rely on certain players with a name to bail us out week in, week out, maybe add the odd panic buy in winter. I think if we go like that, then another factor, if we are forced to play the Tarkovsky Keane partnership at centre back, yeah, if all of that happens, then I think Everton could be having a disappointing season, finishing somewhere 15th, 16th. But that is the worried fan inside of me. The one that's always just waiting for something negative to happen. Whatever, an injury, a ridiculous suspension, a point deduction, a player completely forgetting how to play football for no reason at all. That fan in me is worried for such a season again. And in the worst, yeah, that Everton will finish something 16th or whatever. But another fan version of me, which is also brought more to the forefront now that I'm doing speaking out in public through YouTube, I think the more rational fan of me as well, that fan is actually pretty optimistic for once. I honestly believe it's not a stretch to be optimistic. It's not a pure fan looking at the world through fan tainted glasses think type of thinking that I believe Everton can have a positive season. And the main reason is what I said about the squad. Because, yeah, we didn't have the most exciting transfer summer on paper. But I think we have a squad now that feels almost, we will have a team that features players that will almost feel like new signings. And I looked at the rest of the Premier League again. And honestly, I only see very few teams that I think, even if Everton plays a brilliant season, uh, stays mostly injury free, finds a rhythm, stays on form, plays in a brave way, there are only very few teams that I believe Everton have still are too far away to have a chance to compete. And I think those teams are only Arsenal, Liverpool, and on paper Manchester City. And even with City and Liverpool, there are still small question marks, right? Because they have no new coaches and they have some key players leaving. So Liverpool no longer has Salah and they have Iraola, though I think he's a good coach that suits them well, unfortunately. And maybe even bigger question marks around Manchester City, especially after like yesterday's defeat in the Community Shield. They look like they can also be gotten at. But on paper, they have a monster squad. They have so many players on a level that Everton unfortunately cannot compete with. But and if like teams of like fans of these bigger teams happen to stumble upon this video, they may laugh. But I think the rest of the league, yes, including teams like Chelsea, Manchester United, Tottenham Hotspur, Aston Villa, I think Everton, if everything clicks, have a chance to finish above the rest of the league in each team individually. I do not think Everton will finish fourth. That is not what I'm implying. I don't think Everton will finish in the Champions League squads. But I think if you compare Everton with the rest of the league, apart from these three teams, there are many. I see scenario that the season plays out in a way that they will finish above each of these teams individually. Though I don't think they will finish above every team of them. There are some teams, there will be a couple of teams that will have stronger seasons. Because if these teams also click in an ideal way, then I think they have slightly stronger squads and they might finish above us. But I see a lot of potential. The Premier League is up for grabs, apart from the top three teams. And yes, of course, there are stronger and weaker squads on paper, but I think Everton can have a very good season, and have a very competitive squad. Now, let's talk about the keys to success. What does need to happen for Everton to have such a season? Or let's phrase it differently first. What needs to improve compared to last season? What were the major frustrations last season? I start with overall, I felt over the course of the season, we still played too negative. We were not brave enough. Too many times, Everton lineup consisted of three center backs, mostly Keane, Tarkowski, and O'Brien, Mykolenko. So that is an extremely conservative, extremely defensive back four. And then we often even paired that back four with Idrissa Gana Gueye and James Garner. So I think it's fair to say, compared to the rest of the league, we played the most defensive, safety-first team, and we played that team throughout the season. I think that was probably the most common lineup over the course of the season. There will be no combination of midfielders and defenders that featured more than those six. So that was too overall, for me, too negative, especially at home. We need to change it up, especially in home games. I want a more positive Everton team. I want a team that sets up to win. I want a team that takes the initiative. I want a team that wants the ball. I want a team that takes risk and plays midfielders higher up the pitch and doesn't play a safety first, let's not concede type of game, and often just tries to nick games through set pieces and individual moments on the counter attack. I want Everton to have a more balanced game, approach games much differently. Home and away, not the same formation. So that brings me to my next point. In order for that to happen, for Everton to play overall a more brave season, we need more rotation. We have the deep squad. Make use of it. Use your depth as a strength, not as a headache. Bring players, make more substitutions, and also rotate from game to game. Adapt to home and away, and adapt to the opposition. If we play a team out of form that is a little bit shaky, go at them. Put your foot on their neck. Go and put pressure on them early on. Don't sit back and let them get comfortable. So rotation. And then next point, integration of young players. That has to be another key to success for this season. I think we have the young players in there now. It's not playing young players for young players' sake. We have bright, talented young players that are ready to make an impact now. And they are ready. They need minutes. They will only improve if they play. And that will also have the nice side effect that Everton as a whole increases its value. They will be in a stronger position on the transfer market next summer. If big teams come in for our players, then we already have the replacements within the squad. We are deep enough where we can much more, we feel better with a sale. So stop playing, especially to David Moyes. Don't just pick your favorites. With this squad, I think that will be a fatal strategy to always rely the same type of players to solve a variety of problems. You have so many tools at your disposal, use them. And let me maybe put that point here on David Moyes. I think this, for David Moyes, this is a big season. This can be, at the latter stages of his coaching career, a season that defines the latter part of his coaching vita. Will he be remembered as the coach that is more or less a coach that sets a team up rigidly and solidly and wins and has a good overall, is a reliable, solid coach, but there will always be also remembered for being rather one dimensional and being refuses to integrate young players? Or will he be also remembered beyond that as a tactically smart coach? A coach that is pragmatic, but pragmatic in the good way. Pragmatic in the way that he adapts to the situations instead of sticking to only certain principles. By using players, bringing out players' best quality, by making smart tactical tweaks. Will he be the coach that makes not only defensive players look strong, not only center backs help center backs develop in their careers, but will he be the coach that manages to get both the best out of someone like George, out of someone like Tiano Barry, and out of someone like Marlene Röhl or Jake O'Brien? That could be, if Moyes manages to show that he's a tactically smart coach that leads Everton maybe to a European finish, I think then that will be another big milestone in his coaching career, and will do his reputation a lot of good, also with the Everton supporters, because he's at a bit of a crossroads now. The fan base is split. I still trust Moyes. I think he is the right coach for Everton, but I was also disappointed last season with his lack of bravery, especially away from home, even though we had a good record there. But I think against the big teams, he set us up too negatively. And I think his integration of young players left a lot to be desired. And it felt like he's picking favorites. Even I think we could have made a bigger step last season, but still I trust Moyes to be the right coach for Everton. He knows the club. He's had a good spell before. And I think he's the man. He has the tools. He has it in them. But I now want to see that in application. I want him to be brave also when things go south, when we lose a couple of games, and not go back to only playing O'Brien at right back, whatever, Norgard and Garner in midfield, only Njai and I don't know, even Röhl at right wing. No young players in there. If that happens, then I think I'm not sure if I would like to extend his contract that is running out next season. But if he shows to be a tactically flexible, brave manager that changes his patterns from last season, yeah, then I'd be happy. Then I think David Moyes could be a great coach for Everton going forward. So yes, rotation and integration of young players, and that should also mean the average age of the Everton starting 11 has to go down dramatically over last season. Last season, Everton were one of the oldest teams in terms of the starting 11, and also the distribution of minutes within the team compared to last season should be much more equal. We shouldn't have certain players have 3,000 or more minutes and then other players have less than 500. No, I think I want a much more equal distribution of Premier League minutes for the next season. I think that will, if that happens, if we see such a distribution, I think that will equal greater success for 26-27. And then another point I put in there, we need more from the strikers. I think if there's one position in an Everton side that is under more scrutiny than any other, where the fan base is a little bit harsher than any other position, it's the number 9. It's our striker. The striker position has a long, proud tradition at Everton, and Everton fans expect to have a real talisman up front, someone that gets you goals, someone that leads the line. We need overall to have more, even more from the striker position than we had in years. We need more than what we got from Calvert-Lewin, except for the Carlo Ancelotti era. And we need more than what we've gotten from Beto and Barry individually. Last season, Beto and Barry, in terms of their goal output, it wasn't that bad. I think they got 16 goals. but over their overall play, what they contributed to the team has to improve. And at least from one player, I feel confident that he can be the difference maker this season, which is Barry. If Barry, I need Barry to play in the Premier League season like he played in preseason. He has shown a much more well-rounded game. He has shown that he can carry the ball. He can show that he can pass. He has shown that he can finish his chance. He can finish his chances. We need that Tiano Barry also in the Premier League next season. So if we get that Tiano Barry that can get us 10 plus goals, and Beto can still contribute on the level he did before, then I think that will also be a key to Everton success. And then the last position I want to highlight is the centre back partnership. I think the centre back partnership will be under more pressure than the seasons before. So it turns for me into a key position. In years prior, we have given the centre backs actually a lot of protection. If you think about it, we always put Idrissa Gana Gay there, sometimes Irobunem, Ghana. Like we put many players in there that are quite good at making the middle of the park tight for the centre backs really to focus only on a couple of jobs, heading out the ball from crosses, clearing sharp balls from the side, and like very very rarely were they faced with counter-attacking teams, dealing with attacking players that arrive with speed. But I think if Everton is to mix it up more, play more balanced football, play more attacking midfielders, then there will be more pressure on the back four. So that back four needs to step up. And I think we are right to ask that of them. If like Tarkovsky and Keane are actually capable defenders, tough guys, like strong men in the defense, then they don't need so much protection, which they have before. Branthwaite and O'Brien are mobile, strong defenders. We should use their strength to our advantage. They don't need so much protection. They are fast. They can cover teams on the counter attack as well. But they need to show it. They need to show that they can hold their own. We don't need to protect the back four as much as we did before. Same with Mykolenko. We don't need midfield to cover him. If Mykolenko plays and is a defensive specialist, well, then hold your own against tricky wingers. We don't need we need to get away with you being the only defensive cover on the flanks. We need to be able to get away with that. Otherwise, the value you give is very marginal. If you rely on someone like Njai or in the past McNeil to even cover for you, then your value is so low. We need to be able to ask more responsibility from our defenders. We need to be able to get away with a more attacking formation overall. And we need to be able to get away with leaving a couple more um, bit more space in our own half. Yes. And then a couple of other points. Like I said, I think the coach should be more, show a greater tactical flexibility, more rotation. He transitioned from a team that sets up exactly the same week in, week out to a tactically flexible team. Then another point, very obvious one, but I think Everton relies on that. We need to stay mostly injury free, especially in key positions. I think the centre back, especially Branthwaite, needs to stay injury free. He is maybe the most important player for this side. If he can stay injury free, I feel much better about the centre backs. Whereas if he picks up an injury like he did last year, where he basically wasn't a factor for Everton for most part of the season, yeah, we are much more in trouble. We don't have cover nearly on his level. Then, of course, someone like Merlin Röhl, I mention him because he's been injury prone in the past, but he can be such a utility player for Everton, can cover right back as it stands. He needs to stay injury free. We need to stay mostly injury free. That will obviously never happen. Every team picks up injuries over the course of the season. But for Everton to have a good season, we can't have too many major injuries in key positions. Then another one I think that will please many fans. I still think we need to sign a right back. We need a dedicated, proper right back. Either to come in and start straight away. I think that will be my preference. Or at least someone that is a rotation, like someone that can compete with the right back spot, currently with Merlin Röhl as it stands. Because Patterson on paper is that, but the reality has shown he's never taken as a serious option. He should be the right back if the coach would trust him. No, instead he rotates in O'Brien and Röhl. That shows you he is a squad player, but he's not really an option. He's just a number on the sheet, on the roster sheet. But he's not taken as a serious option. So we need another right back. It's the most important position. I think that we haven't signed a right back so far. That is a major letdown. That is almost a sackable offense. That can never happen. You had to identify the right back position as the most important one for the whole ahead of this summer, and that you could not agree, identify a target, and then get it done. That is, in my opinion, already a mistake. We should have one already. There are absolutely no excuses. Sign a right back. You need to sign a right. And then let's see what we do maybe with the loan market. I already said, I think there should be still a couple of outgoings. I think we should say goodbye to Tim Irikbunem. And I also said, I think I would like, in an ideal world, Everton to replace Beto with another striker who offers a different profile. Not another Calvert-Lewin clone, just a big number 9 that you can lump the ball forward to, which he isn't even that good at. But I would rather see us bring in another striker of a different profile. Maybe like someone like Everton also had in the past. They didn't always have Duncan Ferguson's only, right? We had players like Tim Cahill, Andy Johnson, Tony Cottee, players like that. I would like Everton to sign another number 9 to have a variety of profiles also in attack. Because to me, that is the only position where we kind of have more or less the same type of player there. Yes, with small differences, but I would like us also to be tactically flexible in the striker position too. And then maybe a last point, I think the season will also be a success overall if throughout the season we develop better vibes. Everton we should feel more positive about Everton again. We should be able to watch enjoyable football again, positive football, like that gets us out of our seats once in a while. We should have some iconic results there. We should be able to beat some top sides on paper away from home and not edge out a draw. Yeah, we need some key victories there. Overall, better vibes, a better. I want us to feel like, yeah, we are actually progressing into the right direction, because so far under the Friedkin regime it has more or less felt like the same as before, hasn't it? I want us to feel like we're actually entering a new era, not just be in a new stadium, but I want to feel like, oh, there's a the way we play week in week out, the way we talk as Everton fans, the discourses online, they should change overall to a more positive atmosphere around the club. That would also be on the level of feelings, of the vibes, like a sign of success if we feel a little bit more positive about Everton, more confident. Okay, then now let's go to black and white. I've come up with a couple of categories and I invite you to join in as well. And of course, I'm putting my statements out there now, so you can come at me at the end of the season and criticize me for them or laugh at me if I'm wrong. But what I will say is, I will only take you seriously if you give me your own predictions. It's always easy to feel like you're the expert afterwards. In hindsight, it's so easy, right? But if you want to have a legitimate position to say you knew better or I was wrong, show me your own predictions that you made ahead of the season and not just afterwards. Because otherwise, I don't think your opinion will hold any meaningful weight. Where will Everton finish? Very concretely, I'm being a bit optimistic. I think Everton will finish in eighth, and eighth should bring them. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure if you finish in eighth, you will get Europe. So yes, I think Everton will get Europe, and I think they will get around 56 points, which will be a massive improvement from last season. That will be my prediction. Let me know what you think. So let me say, who will be Everton's player of the season? For me, Jared Brandtwaite, because I think he is the most important player overall to balance out the team, to bail out, to allow Everton to play more forward. So in my view, he will play, he will stay injury free. Everton will have a good season, and he will be the most important player. So he will win, for me, Everton player of the season. Then I put, who will be Everton's breakout young player? And that, you can make a claim for so many players. Okay, let me say who I picked. I picked Harrison Armstrong. I think Harrison Armstrong will be the breakout player. But you could make the claim for many others. You could say Tyreek George. You could say Tyler Dibbling. You could say Merlin Röhl. You could even say Adam Asnu. Why could you say Tyreek George? Because Tyreek George might be a starter, and he is an offensive player. So he can contribute in a very tangible way. He could score goals, bring assists. He's been one of the winners of preseason, and he has an exciting game. He looks like he's sharp and on form, so you could make a very good claim for him. Same for Dibbling on the wing. Similar. Had a pretty good preseason. Looks ready to go. Has a lot of talent. Can also score goals, assists. He might be the breakout player. Then Merlin Röhl overall, you could argue. He has been such a good player in preseason. He so has so much utility. He might be always guaranteed to get minutes. And or you could even claim Ademasnu, because yes, he has so far not had as much of an impact in preseason as the others. But you could beat if he can beat Mykolenko in the positional battle. You could argue Asnu maybe has the easiest path to be a regular starter, because all the others, George, Dibbling, Armstrong, Röhl, they face a lot of competition. They play in a position that is stacked now, and they have very strong competition against them. Whereas Asnu, if he wins his position, he may be starting in the starting 11. So I could definitely see Asnu be the breakout player. But I have picked Harrison Armstrong because I believe he is I don't know, there's something about him. I like him so much. I think he is overall the Everton youngster with the greatest ceiling. I think on paper he has the biggest potential out of the whole squad, maybe together with Jared Brandthwaite. He can be whatever he wants, I think. If it clicks for him, if he gets his minutes, and if he keeps his confidence, doesn't lose it like it felt like he lost his confidence a little bit after that big miss against Lille on Saturday. If he continues like he did in preseason, he could become an outstanding midfielder. I could see Harrison Armstrong have his breakthrough this season. He already had it in preseason, one of the big winners of preseason. I don't know. I feel like Harrison Armstrong, he's a local lad. He gets it. I could also see Moyes trust him a little bit quicker than others. I don't know. I think it's Harrison Armstrong is here. It's his time. I think he will be the breakout player. Then most improved player, I take that category from the NBA. So six like most improved player for Everton. I think the nailed on player is Tiano Bari. I think it will be him. We will talk about him much more positively than we did last season. And then one last category, I put shock result of the season, and I think Everton will win away at Manchester City. That is my big my shock result this season will be Everton finally get an away win at Manchester City. And then let me finish off the video by looking at the rest of the league. So who I think will win the Premier League title? Arsenal will win. Who will the teams that get relegated? Here I will not be very creative. I think all the promoted teams will go down because I see strength with all other Premier League teams. And I think compared to last season, I don't see a team that has recruited as strongly as Sunderland did, which I, by the way, picked to stay in the Premier League. I think all these teams have made some good signings, to be fair. I think like Coventry signed this Ghanaian midfielder, what is he called? Yarenki. He looks promising. Also Ipswich. They've all recruited well, but the Premier League has been turned into such a monster. You need to sign such outstanding players. You have to have players hit the ground running like Sunderland did. And I don't think they have recruited on that level. So I think they will be in trouble. And then three more. Who do I think will be the surprise team of the Premier League in a positive sense? That was a tough one, but I picked Bournemouth. I think AFC Bournemouth with Marco Rose, they will have. I mean, they're no longer a dark horse. You already know Bournemouth is a strong side, and you expect them. They can beat anybody on a given day, right? But I think they will have a positive, even will take another leap with Marco Rose. And then I think it will also be a surprise because many people think, oh, after Andoni Iraola left, will they fall off? I think no. I could even see them, Bournemouth, finish in the top 5 or top 6 because I think Marco Rose is a great coach and he suits them extremely well. Because I know him because I'm a Mönchengladbach fan as well, and he was, after Lucien Favre to me, the best coach Gladbach had for the last, I don't know, 25 years or so. So surprise team positively, Bournemouth, and then surprise team negatively. I think the obvious choice is Newcastle right now, given where they were 2 years ago with Eddie Howe. Now they're looking at, might they be even dragged into a relegation battle? But I think Newcastle won't be. I think they will be okay. I think the team, and I think it won't be as much of a surprise. The vibes around Newcastle aren't great right now. They're like almost a low-hanging fruit. So I pick instead a team that many people always talk highly about, but I think might perform worse than what they expect and what people expect from them is Brighton. I think Brighton won't finish in the top half this season. They're still strong. They have a good structure. They have an immense market value on transfer market. But I don't know, something tells me they won't have as good of a season as they had in the last, I don't know how many years they've been up there now. And then finally, signing of the season, which player I think will the biggest. That was where I was a disaster last year. I actually picked Reinders from Man City last season, and he turned out to be maybe the flop of the season. So I got it completely wrong. But who I pick this season? I will pick Mamadou Sangare from Brentford. I think this guy will become a probably world class player this season. Someone that the big teams will be after next summer. I think he will be a top signing for Brentford. All right, then. It's starting to rain even more. Let me know what you think. Give me your predictions in the chat on the categories I put, both for Everton and if you want the rest of the Premier League. Let me know what are the keys to success for Everton. And then let's see what happens against Palace on Saturday. I'm actually very excited. I can't wait for the season to start for once. But yeah, let me know what you think. Otherwise, you'll hear from me probably on Friday with a match preview. See you soon. Adios.